What's up, everyone? My name's Lachlan Perry. Welcome to Author on Author Interviews. Today, I'm joined by David Thomas Kay, an independent author from Australia who's published the first two installments of a medieval trilogy titled The Circles of Time. I've had the pleasure of reading David's second novel, The Ring of Mann, and I have to say this book is probably one of the most well-written indie books I've ever read, so I highly recommend it and him as an author. In this interview, I'll be chatting with David about his work and also about what path led him to being a writer. As always, if you guys enjoy this video or this podcast, don't forget to like and subscribe. Also, if you'd like to find out more about David and these videos, you can find our socials below. But without further ado, I'll get on to the video. So just before we start on the novels, I'd like to ask you a couple of questions about you as an author. To start off with, when were you first inspired to become an author and really start getting your writing out there?
Well, that's going forward quite a long way because I was 68 years old when I first started writing, which is a throw off. And I was doing a short story writing course, 6 months, and my mentor called me over and he said, "Are you coming back next year for the heavy stuff?" I said, "Oh, I thought I've done okay. I've got 10 assignments behind me, short stories." He says, "Yeah, they're very good, but you came here to write short stories about your family history." I said, "Yeah." He says, "Your worst assignment was your family history one."
Okay.
Thanks very much. I had no flair. No flower. You have to learn to flower things out. All your other assignments, your fantasy ones, and they're all good, but that one," he said, "You mean I've got to lie?" "Well, yeah." He says, "Of course. You have to exaggerate. If you're 6 foot, you're 6'2". If you're small, it's very small. You have to exaggerate, like you did in the rest of your assignments." I says, he said, "I'd like you to, you're the only one here who probably push out a novel." So I said, "I couldn't write a novel. That's 130,000 words." I said, "They're only 2,000 word assignments." I said, I couldn't write a novel. He said, "You've already got the stuff there." He said, "I'll let you into a secret." "Oh, yes. He said, "A novel is a string of short stories linked together. Simple as that. And you've got the ability to do that. You've got your plots are good, your descriptions are good, scenes are good. You've got it all there. You just, and always look ahead where you're going. So it's like driving. You look as far ahead as you can, and in the rear mirror as far back as you can, and you know your place. You know exactly where you're going. You've got to start. You know where you're going. Keep that in mind, and just do chapter after chapter." So I returned for the next 6 months, and that was my inspiration to write a novel. But I had no intention whatsoever of writing a novel. I just
Amazing.
Just wanted to be boring short stories about family history.
Yeah, so it's sort of gone from thinking about factual story writing, and it's just turned into the fiction.
Non-fiction, fiction. He says, drop the poetry, because I was writing poetry, drop the poetry, drop the short stories, and go for the novel.
Yeah. Awesome,
So that was good advice. It sounded like a lot of work to me, Maggie, but
yeah. So tell us a bit about your background. Did you grow up in the United Kingdom?
Yes, I was true Pom. My teenage years were all, I lived on Walney Island. That's on the fringe of the Lake Districts, and where the Vikings landed, actually. This is a throw off. And round the corner was the Furness Abbey, which appears in book 2. So I was in the right environment. I was working across from the island in the shipyard as a fitter and turner on shipbuilding. And I was a mad sportsman. I represented my district at cricket, and my town at soccer, and my school at rugby. I was a fanatical cricketer, you know. And my father was a rugby league coach, so I was very sports orientated around when I started my apprenticeship.
Yeah.
And then I suddenly dropped all that and started studying music out of the blue. I must have been bored. And I ended up playing in the dance band down the local palais, big band. I used to play saxophone and clarinet in the big bands there until I was 21. When I was 21, apprenticeship finished, another big change. I just dropped everything again and joined the Merchant Navy as a seagoing engineer. And I very rarely went back home after that. I ended up in Australia.
Oh, wow. Very nice. So
Yeah.
how does writing come in? Has it come in later, or did you sort of write in your 30s and 40s?
Came in much later. I read a lot at sea in the Merchant Navy. I read a lot. Of most of the authors I know inspired me there. Really thrillers, adventure thrillers, things like that, you know. And detectives like John le Carré. Bryce Courtney I read, and but mainly I would say Pillars of the Earth, Hawaii, things like that. I read all those at sea. Mainly the James Bond bit. I got through all of them at sea. But I never had any inspirations to write from that, on whatsoever. And that didn't happen until much later in life. When I retired, actually, I discovered I was writing poetry just out of the blue. I was writing rhythmic poetry, must have been the music, rhythmic poetry, and not prose, just straight out rhyming poetry. And I don't know, all the way around. We toured a lot when we retired, and I left a poem wherever I was. So I found that very easy, quite natural, you know? But no, nothing to do with writing. Until my wife suggested if I want to do these boring family history stories. I was studying genealogy for 10 years, so I was good at research. That was an advantage. I had the research behind me. So she convinced me to go and start this short writing course. And that's when I was 68.
Yeah, wow. Good on you.
Yeah. Just came out of the blue. Everything seems to come out of the blue with me.
Yeah, well done.
Turn my attention to something full on.
Yeah. So what inspired you to write in the medieval genre?
Well, that was, I never intended that neither, because I was always going to write based on my family history, which started about 1660. And then I discovered my mother's DNA. We had all our DNA. I discovered my mother's was from Norway, Viking stuff. And all the Lake District was, I knew we were all Vikings early on. You know, I read all the historians. In my research, I read about those stories, Vikings. So I thought, oh, I'll have a look into Norway. And I got stuck into this fantasy stuff, the gods and goddesses. And I thought, wow, this is so it's fascinating. No, so and then with the medieval, well, the castle around the corner from me with King Henry demolished. No, there was history there too. So there's something to get your hands on. When I started, I wrote an essay in an assignment in my first course, and I was supposed to write an adventure from just out of the blue. Anything that comes in your mind, he said, an adventure, plenty of action, blah. So I came up with this. I was looking into Vikings, and I came up with this girl, Spanish-looking girl, being raped on the beach by this Danish attack on Norway. And there's more to it than that. And she ended up tearing his eye out, and I thought, oh, where's this come from? I'm not right like that, you know. Raped, and she's tearing his eye out. This is something new I'm writing about, you know. And that eventually became the middle of my first book, which I never intended to write at all. Medieval. And I just built up. I don't know where they came from. I built up either side of it. Where did she come from? Blah, blah, blah. And then where are they going? Where are they going? Yeah, just came out of the blue, the medieval, and I was interested in the kings of the time, the culture,
Yeah.
that sort of thing. It pulled you in, which I was interested in anyway because of my other research with my family members, and how they lived. So you become interested in people and how they live, their culture, the whole, the religions, especially the religions. And, yeah.
So how do you manage your writing now? Do you like to write early in the mornings or late at nights, or you just sort of write whenever the inspiration comes?
Always in the mornings. At this time of year, you have like bright early mornings. You wake you up early, it's the sun, even though in Queensland. And your mind starts ticking over as soon as the daylight operates. And often have, I might go to bed with something on my mind and got a pad on the corner, and something will flash into my mind. I'll take a little note down. And start writing early. Not too long. When I first started, I was getting into too long. I was taught 250 words a day minimum. You must do 250 words a day. My mentor said, that's it. So I stuck to that. I do as I'm told. I stuck to that. And sometimes it extended, sometimes it didn't. But my plan was to, and I have a diary, and I write down in the bottom corner how many words I've written that day. And when my wife was being busy with her activities during the week, her lunches and yoga and all this sort of stuff, I'm at home writing. On weekends, I left clear. I was writing 5 days a week, and then we do our own thing on the weekend. So it's a job, but an enjoyable job. And I got down to having 500 words a week, 10,000 a month. That was my target, 10,000 a month. And it worked out. Takes you all your research, and that takes you 18 months at least to write a novel. And yes, early morning. Definitely early morning. I'm brighter then.
I'm exactly the same, David. I can't write at night time.
It keeps you awake too. I get into that habit sometimes. On the computer late, and they're all blue with your eyes, and I'm not sleeping. Why I'm not sleeping?
Exactly. So, final author-related question. I like to ask this with each author because it's a little bit different. It's a little bit quirky. But if you could do something during your adult life to become a better writer, what would you do?
At present, I would read. I don't read a lot now when I'm writing. I don't have time to read a lot, but I would read new authors, modern authors. I'm steeped in the old ones. Ken Follett and James Michener, and then we're starting my books on. I would take a fresh look, and I would see what my son and daughter are reading. I've never heard of them. Some Japanese stuff. They're both avid readers. I'm looking at what they got on the shelf. Who is that? So there's a lot to learn out there. New authors coming through. They're here now.
Excellent. So getting onto the Circle of Time series now, when and where were you first inspired to write the first book in this series?
Well, that came, as I said before, from my assignments. I was getting into the DNA we're obviously Viking descent, and I was getting really into that with my research, and then that assignment popped out from nowhere. And I thought, well, after he had a chat with me at the end of the course, he more or less suggested there was assignments in there you could write a book on. And I picked that one, the Viking one, because I'd become interested in mythology, so I started working on that as my first book, which I never intended to write. I was always going to start 1660 with King Charles II. I thought it was a fascinating era, and my history went back to there. So so that's how it really started. The link to the Vikings, Scandinavia.
So when you sort of got the idea that you're going to start it there, did you plan it out from there? Just in like a time?
Yeah, well, I always knew where I was going. He always says, look ahead.
Yeah.
But I always knew where I was going. I was born on I lived on the island where the Vikings landed, and I started researching where the Vikings had landed. Well, my book was always going to be where the Vikings landed. Right? So I started off with King Haakon the Good and the battles and blood and gore everywhere and rape and pillaging. But they had a lot of troubles in Norway, and I was reading, and they were running out of forest, actually, trees. And they're all pillaging, and they're unsettled with the kings. Athelstan was making them become Christian. He wanted them to become Christian, and they wouldn't. They like sacrificed to their gods. They were in that stage of change. And that's when I broke them away from Norway and sent them off to the Lake District, where many of them did, to Isle of Man. It's called the Ring of Man. Sent them to the Isle of Man, and via there, they landed all over the west coast of Britain. The Norwegian people did. The Danes landed on the other side, King Alfred's side. The Danes one side, the Norwegians the other side. So that was always my intention, to finish that book, the first book, on Wheatley Island.
Very good.
At the Lake District, where they entered the Lake District.
Have you seen the TV series Vikings, Dave?
Yes, I have, yes. And he stole my main protagonist, Ragnar.
Yeah, I was going to say, it sounds very
that's the name of my I said, that's the name of my.
Yeah.
Be careful.
Yeah.
I looked it all up, and it's a strong name, Ragnar. I said, that'll do. So
yeah. So apart from that show, were there any other like artists or writers that you look to for inspiration or anything like that?
No, my inspirations were from Israel, action adventure. And I read just before in the sea, I read Colonel Fawcett. Do you know, he's an Amazon adventurer. He wasn't an author.
No, I haven't heard of him.
He put up some non-fictions, but he had 10 expeditions into the Amazon jungle looking for a lost city. It fascinated me. He did write all about all the huge pythons he'd come across, marching ants and blood-sucking vampire bats. It is a real adventure, no? Yeah. But so I fed off that. Well, that was a brilliant book, non-fiction. He eventually disappeared into the jungle and never returned, him and his son. It's a big mystery. It's a big, big mystery. But some of his friends were very interesting. Rider Haggard, he wrote King Solomon's Mines, and Conan Doyle. He didn't just write, Conan Doyle didn't just write the Sherlock Holmes. He wrote a story called The Lost World, all based on the Colonel's bloody notes. He had the notes of the Colonel because he was friends, and he based that story on his notes from in the jungle. So those three authors linked again, chatting. So that sort of thing inspired me, and I was always into action, Tarzan and all that, even the early days, Treasure Island. But then it moved on to the detective stuff, John le Carré, and real spies. He was a spy, John le Carré. He worked for M15, M16 overseas, M15 at home, and he ended up. The Russians dubbed him in, and he ended up lecturing in university, working for M15 again, keeping his eye on the students. He was feeding the rebel students. He was in the Russian spy days. He was very active then. So I like them. I like the James Bond style. And they all come from the same sort of base. They're all sort of espionage.
Yeah.
Dennis Wheatley. I love Dennis Wheatley. He delved into the black magic. Yeah. Which I bring into book one, black magic, the dark stuff. I bring that in with the helmets. So he inspired me, Dennis Wheatley, and a few women writers. My wife used to read 19th century sagas, so and they're all Irish. One was an Irish, and it quite fascinated me. Sagas in the 1850s, which I was writing about eventually.
Yeah.
Heading that way.
Yeah.
So they're inspired me, but mainly the adventure ones.
Yeah.
The thrillers, the adventures, and sometimes with spies. I loved all those. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm saying all those books you're talking about, David, I still read them. I love those books. I love John le Carré and all them.
They're great. Yeah, I love mysteries, and I always try to have 3 mysteries. I aim for 3 mysteries that link together and cross.
Yeah.
I like to keep the reader interested and confused.
Yeah, definitely. I'm the same.
Yeah, until the end. Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about the themes in the Circle of Time series. What type of feelings are you trying to evoke from your writing?
Oh, just passion in a way. Like the reader, I'm very passionate about my characters.
Yeah.
Take them through everything from the depth to acceleration. They go through the whole gamut. Every one of them has a bad day and a good day, and they're bad habits. Some of them, but passionate about them, and like the reader should be the same, be drawn into them the same way as I am. I'm right into that scene, the movie scene. You're right into it with them, and that's, you've got to make it real for the reader.
Yeah, definitely.
It's got to be based on facts, but you can't exaggerate too much. But you have to exaggerate.
Yeah, definitely.
Yes.
So when you were writing this series, did you find that you changed at all as a person? Were there new things that you discovered about yourself, or did things that,
no, I was pretty well set. By the time I was writing, I was pretty well set in my ways, and I was a researcher. And, it surprised me that I could write.
Yeah.
When I'd done that course, I said I was writing horrible, boring stuff, factual.
Yeah.
And it really, so I did change that way because I was so surprised that I could write, and I couldn't stop writing.
Yeah, that's very good.
The characters in me, I wanted to know where they were going.
Yeah.
And hopefully the reader does too. Because if you don't know where they're going, nobody does.
Yeah.
You always have, at the end, you always have a name at the end, an idea where they're going. Quite often, you're pulled off course. If there's a strong character, man or woman, you can be pulled off course.
Yeah.
And it's quite interesting to be pulled off course. Change. Sometimes you have to introduce another character, good or bad, balance it out to feed it your clues, and it becomes very interesting. So I did change that way. I became really interested in creating mysteries. I enjoy it. I love mysteries, and the culture of people, the dress, the food they ate, and the other half, the kings and queens, the difference in the rich and the poor. Yeah. So and I enjoyed that, and Circles of Time, I enjoyed that too, because I had Damien, he was autistic. He became autistic. It just happened. We had a few in the family actually, and most women loved him, and he was on the edge of danger because there'd been a murder, and he was suspicious of this. It could have been him. It may have been him. I'm not sure. But you enjoy characters like that, developing characters. They become a theme of your book. Just a poor farm boy, no? But they can become, in that book, he becomes a lot more than a farm boy.
Very interesting, David. So, what do you want people to take away from your series, The Circles of Time? How do you want them to feel at the end of these stories?
Oh, just satisfied that they've had a good read, and they've been educated along the way, because there's a lot of fact in there. which you just throw in now and again, because otherwise it would become too boring. So you have to learn to thread the fact into the fiction, weave it into the fiction. So the reader's learning without knowing. There's nothing worse than having a boring read.
Yeah.
You have to make it interesting. Yeah.
So in terms of feedback from audiences so far, what type of feedback have you been getting? And has there been a certain audience that have loved these books?
Yeah, the sort of middle-aged audience, really. Yeah, they come back and they say, "Oh, I enjoyed so and so, and I liked him, and but why did he kill off Ragnar?"
Yeah.
Says, "Well, it's a Viking book." So there's a lot of complaints of me killing people off in the Viking book.
Yeah.
So I had to bring them back a little bit, reincarnate them.
Yeah.
In the second, mainly the third book is about reincarnation. Bring them back from pressure from the readers. I liked him. I thought, well, I did myself, but no. I thought I had to kill him. or her.
Yeah, no.
But in the Viking book, there's a lot of chop. And yeah, so I had to reincarnate, and I have people who see into the future and the past. Necromancers, we call them. Yeah, but they say the last one commented, said, "That's good. What happened to the ring?" So that's in book 3. So they get into it, you know, and yeah, it's quite interesting, and the feedback you do get.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's quite interesting. Yeah.
So now that we've gone over your books, you have to tell us, are you planning on releasing a new book sometime soon? And if so, could you give us a little bit of insight into this book?
Well, I've just re-released book 1, SOSI, so you know a bit about that one. But I've just finished book 3 and changed the title. It was published as an ebook, actually. The Inscription, it's called. It's very unsatisfied. It was rushed out. I had problems at home, dementia thing. Anyway, apart from that, I've rewritten it, and that's very interesting. You don't know where to start. There's a lot happening in it. There's reincarnations, the gypsy boy, and a highborn woman, and a poor miner boy, and they're all linked to the past.
Yeah.
With reincarnation, they're all linked, definitely. So you're bringing back stuff from the back end and into the front again. It's in the 1850s. It's the time of Queen Victoria and Albert, the time of the Crystal Palace, great fair, and a kill off. They die out in the first chapter, and all the new ones come in. I didn't kill them all. But all the time, there's this haunting throwback of can't say too much. One who got chopped up in the first book, she reincarnates and takes people over, only with direct descent. Direct descent, and she takes them over. Usually the woman, and she becomes them anyway. She chops a few people off. It's one of those. And then she disappears for a while. All based on it's all true history. With this bit stuff thrown in the middle. These throwbacks thrown in the middle. It's hard without telling too much.
Yeah, of course. No, from what you said already, Dad, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah.
So finally, just to round it off, could you please share with us how people can get in contact with you and get a hands-on copy of your books?
It was davidthomask.com. That's my website, www.davidthomask.com. I sell through Amazon. I'm on Amazon and Ocean Reefs Publishing on both of those. But you'll find me through davidthomask.com.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining me today, David. It's been a pleasure speaking with you.
It's enjoyable.
For everyone who's watching this video or listening to this podcast, remember to check out the social media links. Everything David just mentioned, I will put in a box for you so you can go straight to it. Also, if you'd like to meet other awesome writers and hear about our journeys and how we've developed as writers, don't forget to like and subscribe. But I'll catch you guys soon, and stay safe. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good one.